Here on the Creative Thinker Podcast, we discuss all theories, philosophy, and thought behind the creative process. And we hope that you find some inspiration along the way. Hello and welcome to the Creative Thinker Podcast. My name is Henry Moon and I'll be your host. Shout out to creative thinkers all across the globe, especially those in Hesse, Germany, which is apparently our most popular region right now.
Oh, no. No shit. Cool.
To my left, instead of Michael, who is out doing family stuff, don't worry about him. He's okay and he'll be back. I have the great honor and privilege, and I'm a bit nervous, I'll be honest, to introduce Anthony Basini, who's one of the best musicians I've ever had the pleasure of not only working with, but getting to see perform. So, Anthony, thanks so much for being on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I'm so glad to do this, and it is so unbelievable to know you as a person. You're such a good person. I can't believe you're nervous to talk with me. I'm glad to be here, and I'm just glad to be your friend. So,
yeah. Well, I remember the first time I got to see you play, I was like, this dude's got an amazing stage presence, and unlike most people, when I go see him play, I was like, this dude seems genuine. He's having a great time. It's like, I think your hair was even longer then. You're like thrashing with the music. It was a metal concert. Hannah Barracat. Great music. I've talked about her before, so check her out if you can. But that's the band I saw you with first, and then I got to hear you play after some of your own stuff, and I was like, whoa, this guy is amazing. And so I always have that in my head. I sort of forget with you and Carson both.
Yeah.
When I'm around you, it's like, oh yeah, that's these guys. They're the same people, just because you're both so nice. But yeah, so that's why I'm nervous. It's like, I don't know. You're a real musician.
I am, man. I love it, and I'm living it. It's it is why I'm here. And I don't have that much control over it. It's just I am just a vessel for the music.
Oh yeah. You got a new CD coming out, right?
I do. I can't even believe it, man. It took a really long time to just have the courage to put it out, and to have the courage to write all the songs that are my deepest, most vulnerable feelings. But yeah, it's coming out. It's called Skeleton Songs. You can find me on Spotify. My name's Anthony Basini. Last name spelled B as in boy, ASINI. You can also follow me on Instagram at @A_Basini, and you can find everything there. Please listen. Yeah. Tell me what you think too. I was actually just telling Henry that I was listening to the Fear of Failure podcast that you guys did a couple weeks ago, maybe like a month or two ago at this point. Man, that one really resonated with me because, like being an artist, putting out my first album, that's all over it. I can hear myself being afraid of the failure on the recording. And
well, you've already been on tour with so many bands. You just came back from a tour through like Albany, right? Like all the way up to New York and back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did a whole East Coast thing and then came back down through like the central United States.
And that was like, forgive me, I haven't listened to him a whole lot, but it's like a jazz-based music, right?
This one, man, it's actually kind of hard to pin down. His name's Pascal Karanga. Check him out as well. Congolese American singer-songwriter. And it's part R&B, part pop. His voice just, has that world music aspect just based on his accent. And I think his first language is French. So I think the natural cadence and rhythm of a language have an effect on the way you sing. So there's like kind of some world element pieces that come from just the way he speaks based on his like native tongue. And the way we did it live, there were a lot of rock aspects, which was fun for me. It's kind of a lot of different things, but I had a great time. It was super fun.
Well, I think like the point of bringing that up is not only to say like any style of music, you just jump in and play. Like, so for the Molly Moon Band, you were gracious enough to play on.
Loved it, so fun.
And it was like the first CD we put out, there's like Spanish music, almost like flamenco, almost like, very dramatic, very Spanish. And then immediately just go on tour and do some jazz, some world music, some funk. And the first time I saw you play, you were playing metal. It's like any style I've that I know of, you play flawlessly. So
I don't know about flawlessly, but thanks. I'll take it.
But it's been amazing watching you play. And so like maybe like how many bands have you played with in the last 6 months?
In the last 6 months, man, good question. I want to say like probably 4 or 5. I'm playing pretty actively with Christine Renner and Scott Collins, also Austin-based musicians. They're amazing. Been having a great time playing with them. I just recorded a record with the Aaron Clift Experiment that is like a prog band that's also based here in Austin. We just got it right up in Prog Magazine, which was awesome. Like that's
That's super
amazing
cool. Congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah, it was a good review. So that made me feel really good. Excuse me. So yeah, glad to be a part of that project, and then my own band, of course, and then Pascal Karanga's band. I just came back on tour from, so I think that's like 5 maybe at the moment. But honestly, anyone who needs a guitar player who likes what I do, I will play with you. I just love to make music, and I want to live my life doing that all the time.
Yeah, no, it's so cool. I know. I couldn't believe when we were on tour with Hannah. I was taking pictures at the time, and we're coming back, and then like there's just a lull in the conversation. And Carson was like, "Let me hear that song again." It was like just had one recorded from when I was like 19, and it was like played it, and then we just started tooling around with it, and I was like, "Oh, wait a second! Like they're playing my music right now. Like this is the coolest thing," and I don't know, everybody was just jamming on it, and it was just the greatest feeling, and that got me back into music. And it was like, yeah, it's a high five for the people not watching. Yeah, I mean that's one of the things that, like I said, just being around you, it's like, yeah, I'm reminded that creativity is something I can do. That this is something that it's like. I guess that imposter syndrome, right, is real.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, tell me about it. And I have it too. I definitely. I'm glad to have been a catalyst for your like music making. It makes me feel really good. I mean, I'm a firm believer that like every human is an artist. No matter what you do, to be human is like it is art. Whatever you do, whatever you put your heart and soul into, whatever you care about, whether it's architecture or landscaping or music or whatever. If you put intention into it, and if you put your heart and soul into that thing, and if you really care about it, that is art. And it's in all its imperfections, wherever you are in that process. So glad to have been like a spark for that. Because I not only do I think it is just innate in us as human beings, but I also think it's the way, I think it's what's going to like help heal the world, So, yeah, glad to be a part of that.
Yeah. We were talking about earlier how, that's sort of like a great unifying force. It's sort of the thing that ties everything together is creativity. And a lot of people don't think about it in terms of like, well, I'm not creative because I don't draw or whatever, like everybody has this very set in their mind idea of what creativity is. And I mean, creativity is in everything. It's in problem solving. It's in, just everyday tasks. If it's something that you're willing to do and do well, it's like the part of you that does the task differently than everybody else would, right? There's a guy, his name's Paul. He's going to be coming on the podcast sometime later this month or next, that cooks brisket. He's a pit master.
I love it. Art, man. I'm a foodie too,
dude,
so let me know.
He loves food. It's like I'm just talking to him casually. It's like it gets me excited about cooking,
Yeah, man.
just because he loves it so much. And it's like those are the people I get really excited to talk to, and because they've found the art and they're emphasizing the art in their creativity. And it doesn't have to be, like you're saying, it doesn't have to be music, it doesn't have to be drawing, whatever. He's got art in what he's doing, and he's got a love and a passion for what he's doing. And you can do that in any area of life, and that's what I think is so cool. It's like you do that through your guitar, but it's like getting to know you outside of your guitar has been amazing too, because it's like, well, he's the same person, I don't know why I never expect that. They always tell you don't meet your idols, right? And so
come on, that's crazy.
Yeah.
An idol, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I love you, Henry. Thank you.
But I love you too, and so it's just been amazing to see like, okay, well, he's the same person. So I guess what I'm really curious about, and I know you've told me before, but there's other people listening than me right now. So, how did you get into music? How did you get into guitar specifically? Like, what's
Man, big question, multifaceted for me. It has, and in different ways, it's been in my life always since an early age. My dad loves karaoke, and my mom, I think my mom also loves karaoke. But my mom has kind of sung to me since I was a little kid, so that there's always been like, music has always been like a form of love in my life. I also grew up in church. I'm not a Christian anymore. We could definitely go into faith at some point if that's something you want to talk about.
I think we probably will just a little bit later.
Yeah, rock on, man.
And I know that's a big part of why both of us create in general, or at least got this far down the path. So I know that, for you, it's spirituality, I believe.
Absolutely.
And for me, it's faith, which I think is part of the same coin. But I think it's a really interesting thing about you. And we had a really good conversation about it before. So I want to get into that, but later, after we talk about your musical history.
Absolutely, yeah. So, music was always in church for me growing up. So, and I went to church a lot. I grew up Pentecostal, which is like it's a pretty intense version of Christianity. I was there twice a week, at least. So I had a lot of music through church in my life, and since music has been my closest connection to whatever God is. So that's another through line that music has like interceded with my life. Also growing up, I have like a bit of a trauma background. And as I got older, some of the more positive influences in my life, some of the more positive male influences in my life played guitar. And that inspired me. And because at that point in my life when I was pretty impressionable, I want to say like maybe between like 8th grade and then high school, I really got into it for that reason. It was always part of family functions because those influences were part of my family at that time. So music has just kind of like always been there. And I come from a family of people who love music. It was kind of always playing in some form. My grandparents also, I have like beautiful memories of, singing Amazing Grace with them in their living room. And because they're the people who got me into church, they unabashedly sing. It doesn't matter who's around if they feel called to sing because, that's what the Spirit's telling them to do, then that's what they're going to do. So being a part of a family where people will just unabashedly sing because that's how they feel, made it like just a big impact on me.
Yeah. So that's really cool.
Thanks.
And a really positive takeaway from what it sounds like were some difficult times. So, that's what I think is so cool about how you view creativity, but we'll get into that again later. But, so when you first picked up a guitar, do you remember what that experience was? What's the first time you remember plonking around on a guitar and saying, yeah, I think I might do this again?
Yeah, it didn't stick at first, which seems a little silly because my whole life is based around it now. But my dad got me a guitar for my 12th birthday, and got me some lessons. I tried to go to a concert without him knowing, and he found out and took those lessons away. So, I didn't really stick with it. But the first time when I first got that guitar, the first night, my kind of like pseudo uncle at the time taught me how to play Enter Sandman, and I just played like that whole night. And eventually I kind of got bored with it, especially after not, losing those lessons. I didn't really, I didn't have a way to learn. And this was like pre-YouTube, so
way back then.
So yeah, I didn't really have a way to learn or an outlet. And I kind of got bored with stuff, and I didn't really pick it up again for a while. I plunked around and learned some stuff, but then it just kind of like fell away.
What brought it back?
Going to high school and meeting people who are also into guitar. And I was like, well, I have a guitar and I can kind of play guitar. So I picked it up, and a lot of my friends were playing it. I brought my guitar to school a lot. We played like kind of in the morning before classes, and,
nice.
And then after school, I just kind of always had a guitar in my hands. And I was a bit of a shy kid. I think some of that trauma background stuff, I just was pretty quiet. I am already just kind of like an observer as a person. I just tend to like sit back and watch and listen, and figure life out in my own way. But when I found out that music was an avenue for friendship, that I think was one of the things that like really got me into it.
Dude, that's 100% how I got into photography.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, because it was just like that was how I could, for some reason, asking, "Hey, can I take your picture?" was always easier than starting up a conversation with somebody. And so just say, "Hey, can I take a picture?" and then be like, "Fine," you know. Especially with the advent of social media, it's like, "Oh yeah, totally." Content, right? And so you take the picture, and then you can start in a conversation. And so it was like that had to be my way into talking to people.
That's awesome.
So
I didn't know
relate to
that about
for
you.
sure.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
Rock on, man. Rock on.
and that's why I feel like as I've gotten better talking to people, I think partially through the podcast, I've really sort of taken a big step back from photography. It's just not as big a role in my life anymore, and music is sort of coming back in a big way.
Rock on.
And I think that's just because I'm feeling more comfortable being me. I hope that doesn't happen with you with your guitar. That's just what's happening with me.
Yeah, who knows, man? Like it's all a moment in time. I never know what I'm going to be doing, in a day, much less like 2 years from now. I'm glad that you're embracing music, but also, like I love your photography too. I'm going to buy that Fox from you.
Yeah.
So
Nice,
I love that, man. It's so cool. And like following your adventures in Alaska was cool through your photography. Like that, man, that was for me, that was a cool adventure. Like just kind of watching you be out there.
A lot of very quiet photos. I think like looking back, and I think that's kind of fun because the village is 350 miles outside of anything, so it was a very quiet place.
Yeah, man.
So yeah, looking back and just seeing the space out there in the world is pretty interesting. But it's pretty interesting culturally too, just because there's a big native population out there, and getting to see, I guess, the consequences of us buying Alaska and moving in and on those people is, I mean, it's devastating for one, but it's also just, I don't know, if you can. If you can divorce yourself from it emotionally, it's a pretty interesting case study.
No kidding.
But anyway, that's really not a podcast topic, I don't think. But
I do think it's super interesting, and would love to hear more about it, maybe separately from this. But even if we go there, I'm happy to go there too. I think that's interesting and wild, and like our actions have our decisions have very human consequences. And I think maybe you lived proof of that, or saw living proof of that while you were there.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a fair assessment. I think what I was struck by, because you've just been releasing singles for the album, and I've been listening, and I've touched on this, just sort of sending you my thoughts on your songs, just saying like it's always, they're always very inviting songs, and then it's like you get hit with this really deep emotional beat. It's like you're not really expecting it because of how gently you get lulled in, and then there's this line that's like, oh wow, that's devastating. And
Thank you.
And I feel like it's because you take so much time to be introspective, and you take so much time to I guess focus on what you can actually change. So much of people's time and attention is like I'm always thinking about social media because I'm on it way too much. It's like
it's an addiction, man.
What they're telling you, yeah, 100%. But what they're telling you to do is like beat the person next to you. Make sure that you are the focus of your own life. Make sure that you're the driving force. Make sure that nobody takes anything away from you. Because you're the most important thing, right? And I think that is completely 100% 180 wrong, because the things that we can control in life, the things that are going to make us feel better about our lives, is how do we better ourselves? How do we integrate with the things around us? Where do we find our power in the world? And it's most often in our choices, in our view of the world, in like what we do to other people and how we create,
Yeah, hell yeah. It all starts right here, man. It all starts right here.
Yeah, 100%. So that's what I think is so cool about your lyrics. So I kind of wanted to, I wasn't planning to, so sorry to drop this question on you.
All good. Happy to answer, yeah.
But so can you talk about maybe your journey in the writing of the songs for this album? Because Like you said, just the introspection and like, I'm blanking on the title of the song. Maybe you can help me out
Sure.
with that. But it's, I think it's The Verge, but I'm not sure. Where you say it's like time to blame myself.
Yeah, that's The Verge. Yeah, time to blame myself instead of you.
Yeah. And so could you tell me about that? That one is me personally. I'm curious about that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
Sorry to the listeners. Check out the song
Yeah,
and then
please
come back
do.
with that curiosity.
yeah, and let me know how you unpack it too, because I like, and Henry, I'm interested to hear your takeaways from the song too, because everybody unpacks art differently. It depends on where you are in your life and what's going on with you and what's resonating with you at any given moment. So yeah, would love to hear all of your thoughts out there in the world, and also Henry, how you're feeling about it. Yeah, for me, I mean, writing a song sometimes takes time, and it really is a moment. It's where I am at that time in my life when I write that song, and sometimes that time is stretched. Like it may take me 6 months or a year to write a song. And so those songs are like packed full of context with whatever's going on in my life. And at that time, I mean, I actually just came out of like an 8-year-long relationship. And that being in a relationship like that, this was my first relationship that was like that long. I had been in a few that were like a year long or 2 years, but 8 years is like a really long time, and being a married person, that your partner is they're like a reflection of you. You don't have anywhere to run from your bullshit when you have someone that you love, that loves you, that's giving it back to you, that's saying, hey, like this is affecting me in this way, and we have to work on this together. You have to work on this for me. So a lot of that song and a lot of this album comes from like having to challenge myself to be better for that person and also be better for myself. And eventually I realized that, and it took me a really long time to figure this out, but eventually I realized that being in this relationship wasn't what was good for me. And I was putting myself aside. I was putting my artistry aside. I was putting all the things that I want to be in my life aside, because I was finding value in being a good partner. And ultimately, I think that made me a less good partner than I thought I was being at the time, because I wasn't doing for me. So of course I wasn't doing for her.
Yeah, no, that's super relatable. Yeah.
Yeah, man. And that was one of those moments where it's like, okay, I have to start blaming myself. I have to start looking at the decisions I'm making so that I can be better for me, and in turn be better for you, or be better for the other people in the world that I'm around all the time. Especially after having realized that being with Savannah just wasn't the right call for me in my life.
Yeah, I felt like, I mean, just recently, I got a new job. And so, I mean, it was literally like from moving from Alaska to here, it's like, that's expensive. And then I went 4 months without a job, and it was like, we came right up to the edge of like losing everything.
Oh yeah.
And so I've been putting everything I've got into this new job. It's like, okay, I'm going to make sure that I'm the best worker there, because I want to be the last one out the door if their business goes south,
Yeah.
So I've got time to move on to the next thing. And it's like, once you put everything aside for something, it's like, not only are you destroying yourself to some degree, you're destroying everybody around you, because it's like, as soon as I leave that job, it's like I'm in a terrible mood just because I haven't been myself all day,
Yeah.
And that's exhausting.
Yeah.
And you just can't keep that up. It's like, I've been there for a month, and I'm like, this is gonna crash around. I got to do something. And start fixing my perspective on this, So that's well timed to hear that on my part,
Rock on. Glad to hear it.
And that's kind of what I thought the song was about too, because, and that's why I thought it was so cool, is because I knew you guys have been together forever, and it was like, it wasn't that long after y'all split that I heard that song for the first time, and I was like, wow, the fact that I mean, it just says so much about you as a human being and what you're searching for, and what you want out of life, that you went from, what's arguably, I mean, anybody listening would say that's probably one of the most devastating moments you can have in life.
It was, yeah.
And
still is some days,
Yeah, for sure. And to come from that and just almost immediately say, all right, there's some things I need to work on, let's get to work, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think for artists especially, and I keep trying to get a therapist on for the show for a couple of things. But it's like for artists especially, it's like, okay, let's do a deep dive into depression and make some weird art, right?
Heck yeah, man.
And instead of, maybe an existential crisis, it was let me look inward and see what I can do.
Yeah, and something beautiful comes out of that. Like I think that's some of the power in art. Like for me, it is therapy. Like part of the reason I chose to make this my job is because I need it in my life anyway. Music is, I mean, on top of actual talk therapy, it's the thing that helps me get out of my darkest places, so I have to do it for my own mental health, for my own sanity. So I might as well use that, especially if I know that it's going to, connect with other people. And it, like that song is also a love letter to music for me. It's me like about facing my life and, coming out of this relationship to chase music, I'm going to do this now, like part of me getting out of that relationship is realizing that I was letting it hold me back, so yeah.
And how do you decide what you're going to write about and what you're not, right?
Man, yeah.
So like for me, it's, when a moment becomes like inescapable, right? Once it's built to the point that I can't restrain the energy behind it, that's when I'll write. And that's why, like, so a lot of my friends in college would sort of, I guess, I was not a nice person back then, so I would sort of like,
I have a hard time believing that, to be honest.
Like, I would gig them a little bit about it too, but it was like I would write songs in about 20 minutes. Because it had been building up for, a few months, and then I'd finally sit down with a page and I have an idea of what I was going to do end to end already. And so the act of putting it on the page only took me 20 minutes. But writing the song was like 4 months, right?
Yeah. 4 months of like feeling the shit. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
can I say shit?
Yeah, you can say whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah, fuck
this it's got the explicit warning ever since Michael said ass on air. He was like, can we make this an explicit episode? It's like, yeah. And he's like, so.
I love it. Cool.
It's like, you're going to make me make this an explicit podcast just for the word ass. Okay, let's do it.
I love it.
We're 100% in on explicitity. No,
awesome. Yeah, thanks. This is where I am right now. So appreciate that freedom. I mean, honestly, I'm the same way in a lot of aspects. I feel a lot. I have a lot of big emotions, and my life is like a roller coaster. Like mentally and emotionally. Like sometimes I'm up at the top and it feels awesome. Being on tour was amazing. Playing at these awesome venues for a lot of people, and just like being on the road, being in cities that I've never been to, eating food I've never eaten before, and just like, riding the highest highs. Those always feel great. And then there are, like I come back to my regular life, which is still awesome and music filled and full of great, beautiful people. But, like it's hard to come back to like the regular monotony of everyday life after like being out there, like living my freaking dream,
Yeah, like, oh yeah, it's tax season.
Yeah, oh my God,
dude.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, I feel like that was a really hard part when I first started doing photography full time. It was like euphoric almost. So you go take pictures for an hour and a half, and it's like, dude, that was the greatest hour and a half. And then I come home and it's like, I guess let's see what's on TV.
Oh, dude. Yeah, it's one of the toughest parts. It can be so short-lived, It's like I'm playing on stage for 45 minutes. And then like the rest of my day, the other like 23 hours, is just like waiting around. Like,
Yeah. 45 minutes on stage, 2 hours of grinning like an idiot. And then you can,
yeah,
like,
exactly.
You're just so happy. It's great. We had a conversation, I guess, a month ago now, 2 months ago, that I'd love to get into. And
Yeah.
I have like fair warning to anybody listening. I have no idea where this is going to go, and I have, I'm not going to necessarily say I'm endorsing for anyone out there. Spirituality, faith is such a personal thing. So do what you need to do for you personally. But for both of us, spirituality is a huge part of why we create and what keeps us creating.
Absolutely.
And yeah, would you mind explaining sort of why you feel like creativity is valuable?
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, this is so multifaceted for me. I see the evidence in so many ways. One thing that I mentioned before, it is therapy for me. When I'm feeling down, when I'm in my darkest darks, music is the thing that gets me out of it. So that's like, that's probably at the top of my list. It's the thing that helps me feel okay when I don't feel okay anymore. Another piece of this, and getting to that like faith-based point, is that like music is my closest connection to whatever God is. I'm learning now, and in my practice as a musician at the moment, a big part of it is just like getting to know who I am, where I am, and accepting that, and getting out of the way of that. Allowing whatever's going on environmentally, internally, to like freely flow through me as a player, and as a writer. So
do you believe like when you're writing, or when you're sort of in the groove, that is sort of like a spirit flowing through you, more or less, like you're tapping into a force bigger than you, or like where do you sit with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I've been listening to a lot of rap lately. I've been listening to a lot of like West Coast rap, Kendrick Lamar, Tupac, D Smoke. And a lot of it is like flow based, I think. I think a lot of it is, this is my take on it, at least pieces of it is just kind of like letting go and allowing the flow to kind of literally just flow through you, and it helps connect you, one, to, without judgment, connect to how you feel. And two, allow whatever is in there or up here, if it's like maybe channeling through you, this is my way to describe that. Whatever's up here that you're not really actively thinking about, but maybe lives in your subconscious, or is in this, this thing that is greater than any individual that we are all connected to, kind of come through you as well. It's like opening up those channels. When I write, that's a part of it. And sometimes I can write a song in 5 minutes. Doesn't happen often, but in those moments I feel really, like, one, I don't have a lot of control over it. That's part of how I'm realizing this, is that there's so much of it that I just like, like I don't get to choose. Of course I do it all the time and I practice it. It's a part, it's my job. So I kind of have to, but,
yeah, go ahead, like honing your tool, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're making sure that the tool is in the best condition that it can be by practicing, by working on your craft, so that when you sort of fall into the flow, and of course,
yes, yeah, that's it.
Of course, there is also a component of like knowing what to do when you arrive there. So like in sports, especially, I'm thinking of tennis. I grew up watching tennis and playing, and so they would always talk about it's just you versus the person across from you, and they would always say, well, the person who's been in the final before has a huge advantage on the person who's there first time.
Heck yeah.
And that's true of art, right? When you arrive in the flow the first time, it's so unbridled, and it's like it's kind of terrifying the first time. It's been so long, I kind of forget what it was like, but it was also like like I don't think I want to do that again, but it was also great.
Yeah.
So I feel like in art, the more times you can sort of like hollow out the path to the flow, and the more times you can be in it, the more you can realize like, okay, if I relax my body like this, if I, you can heighten it, you can make it easier for you, you can make it more productive for you, but it's also this, like you're saying, this sort of uncontrollable energy that's you can sort of finagle to your benefit in some ways, and that's about it.
Yeah, I think you really got to it at the beginning with like sharpen the tool so that when it's time, you can use it well. You know what I mean? And that's I don't get to choose when the time comes, but I get to choose how sharp my tool is. So like always, you know, like, and part of it is like, if you want to be a musician, this is my advice for anybody who wants to do it, go out and play. There's so much on the job training that you can't get in your room, that you can't get learning on YouTube, that is like way more valuable than anything you can do on YouTube in your room. So get out and do that. That's for me the best way to like sharpen that tool. Yeah, like I said, I don't really have a lot of control. The best thing I can do is like, you said hollow out, is like kind of create the space for flow when it happens. Be open to whenever it's going to come, because you never know when and where the magic is going to come from. You can be inspired by anything. I think the last podcast you had like a moment at the beginning where you guys were talking about what has inspired you this week, and I think Michael said it was just like a thumbnail or something.
Yeah,
and you never know. You never know. One little tiny thing can just like, so having the space to like be able to channel that, knowing that it can come from anywhere at any time, and just like allowing that, I think is a piece of it.
Yeah. What's inspiring you lately? Is that something to drop on you? Because I just I've been listening to as many playlists as I can on Spotify lately, just trying to find any song that I feel like I resonate with. Because I'm sort of at a weird, like, I think we're at 3, maybe 4 songs for the next CD, and we need 5. So 5 is like our limit, right? And so I'm like, I just don't have it for the 5th one. So I've just been going down this like deep dive of playlist, and I found Fields and Fences by Yellow Card.
Oh, nice.
And it's basically a song about how like he went to LA, he got famous, and now he's not famous and he's moving away from LA, right? Mm-hmm. So like he ended up in Tennessee, and Tennessee is like the first word of the chorus, but it's such a beautiful song. It's like him after he's relevant.
Yeah, man.
But only publicly relevant. It's like it's like he's coming to this understanding that he still matters, even though he doesn't matter to like the ethos of the U.S. Right?
Yeah.
Ethos is the wrong word, but you get it.
Okay, yeah.
And so, anyway, so like that song really hits me hard. I've only listened to it like 4 or 5 times, so I can't think of the lyrics. But it's a beautiful song. So that's what's getting me going at the moment.
Rock on, man. Yeah, I mean, I think honesty, that moment, like him being vulnerable enough to talk about his experience with like coming out of fame and still being addicted to music, as I'm sure he is. When for me, it will never really let me go.
And I know what you mean.
Yeah, and I'll also never let go of it. But music is just something that I think, especially if you do it from a young age, it just sticks with you. So the honesty is inspiring for me. Hearing that like honest expression of like, man, I'm like moving away from this thing that he probably worked so hard to attain, and I probably gave him a kind of life that he was really proud of, and now having to leave that, I bet that's a really intense, vulnerable song.
Yeah. This psychologist I heard not too long ago was saying that it's hard for creative people to get and hold jobs because corporate jobs are made to control the occupants of those jobs. And creative people, it's really hard for them to control creative people, A, and B, like they can't turn it off.
Oh yeah, heck yeah. And honestly, like freedom is central to like who I am and like how I express. And I think you guys also touched on this either in your last podcast or the fear of failure one, where you started talking about time and its value. Because honestly, time is the most valuable thing we have. And I can tell you right now, like, I'm not going to spend the majority of my life living for somebody else. I'm just not going to do that. I have one. I have one life. Time is the most valuable thing I have. And I'm not just going to give that away. I don't really care what it looks like. I'm going to keep doing this because like I got one, man. I'm going to live it. I'm going to fucking live it, you know?
Yeah.
So I really relate to that. You know, I can't do the corporate thing, you know, because I just like, for who? For chasing some, I don't know, something that is never going to make me happy.
3.2% profits doesn't do it for you?
No, makes me want to die. And time is the thing I value the most, you know? Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, like I hardcore relate to that. I really do. And I don't think I gave you music, but think music that I've been inspired by, Kendrick Lamar's To Pimp a Butterfly, that thing front to back is like honest and raw. And also Tupac's Me Against the World, I think, with the exception of a few tracks, is like a perfect album. Again, really honest, very nuanced, a glimpse into a very difficult life. Lizzie McAlpine, I've been, both her albums, Give Me a Minute and 5 Seconds Flat are really good. Man, what else have I been listening to?
You ever hear the song Mansions by NF?
No, I haven't heard that. Send it to me. I want to check that out.
I will.
Yeah.
But basically, he's a rapper, but Christian rapper. At least that's how he started. I don't know where we're at officially now, but but he's got this song called Mansions, and basically he's talking about how he describes his brain as a mansion. In each room, he's got different things written on the walls, and so like there's some rooms that he doesn't want to go into, and like how that's affecting his relationships and all this stuff.
That's cool.
And it's just super intense. Like I really relate to that
I'm
song.
about
It's
it,
beautiful. So anyway, I'll send it to you. Check out Mansions by NF.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out, man. And yeah, I think that's awesome. I think that's another, like, that's a good metaphor for introspection. You know, like there are corners of our minds that we are constantly distracting ourselves from, you know.
Especially the painful ones.
Oh, heck yeah. Mostly the painful ones. For me anyway, you know. And we do it in lots of ways, you know, like with, I don't know, with TV, with, I guess that's Netflix now, with, you know, like Netflix or social media, or, you know, like with booze, with weed, that's a big one now. And I think art is just a really like healthy way to feel good about digging into those places or taking a look at those places, because you get that sense of accomplishment. You created something beautiful out of taking a look at that hard stuff.
Like I really enjoy trance concerts. I really enjoy like EDM. Like
I've never been.
Dude, we should go.
I'd love to. Yeah.
It's like I'm running out of people to go with because I'm the only one who doesn't do drugs. And it's like it's getting to be where like they're like, oh, I can't go. I just can't do that anymore. It's like, well, I'm not trying to talk you into doing drugs. I thought we were just having a good time at the concert. I didn't realize like the third time you were going to the bathroom in 2 hours was because you know what I mean? Like my naivety, you know, just went straight over my head. But yeah, it's like I'm just going for the music. It's like that rhythmic beat and I don't know, it just sort of lulls you into a quiet mental space, and it's wonderful. I love it, and I'm running out of people to go with.
Let's
There's
go.
so many altered states, dude. Yeah, bet.
Yeah, I'm about it.
Yeah, but let's get back into faith and how it affects art. So like, I guess the embodiment of faith is what I'm asking. Is because you touched on it a little bit, saying that you're basically a conduit for this bigger energy. But could you elaborate on that? See, like, because I feel like in our last conversation, and for me specifically, it's like I feel like I'm acting out what our creator, our bigger spirit did for us. By creating, is because that's the place I feel the least judged. That's the place I feel the safest. That's the place I feel like energized, and it feels special, and it feels miraculous to some degree. And so I guess I've come to the idea of like maybe this is maybe us acting out in our, you know, one of our purest forms, acting out what the spirit of the universe did at some point. So, you know, disagree if you like, but that's how I feel about it. So, and we talked about that to some degree the last conversation we had, and I can't remember exactly what you said, but how do you feel about your place as a creator in the universe?
Yeah, man. I love all that. Honestly, it's changed so much over time and continues to change for me. The more I see, I mean, at the end of the day, the more I know, the less I know. You know what I mean? The more
That's a good one.
yeah. At the end of the day, I have no idea. You know, I don't think any of us really know. You know, what's at the heart of this life. You know, but I do think creation is central to it. You know, creating something, and I think like this is part of my issue with like this like corporate structure that we live in, is that it's taking advantage of this thing that's central to existence and pimping it out for the benefit of who, you know. Granted, it is a way that we survive now, and we all have to learn how to survive. And, you know, however you do that is, you know, is valuable. Make it through your day and do things that are good for you and good for the people around you. And I think that is so awesome. Even if it isn't a corporate structure, if that, you know, if that's what gets your goat, man, keep getting that goat. But I really believe that creation is central to existence. We all have to create something. It's what helps most of us feel good, you know, at least for me, you know, and most of the people I know, even if you're like, I think productivity also feels good for people in a sense. That's like creation, or to help others create something. It's like taking your energy and putting it into something that makes something, or
benefits others.
Or benefits.
In some way.
Yeah, heck yeah, that's a great one. And honestly, like, it's so tricky because I don't really know what God is, and I'm not entirely sure that my brain is capable of figuring that out. I do believe that there is some creative force in the universe. Maybe God to me is life itself. And for me, that doesn't even necessarily mean that it's like all good or all bad. I think it might be both. You know, it might just be, God might just be trying to survive alongside us, you know, albeit in some other way, with us as its fingers, or us as its mobile pieces in the universe, whatever that means or may mean. And connecting to that force, connecting to that will to movement, that will to create, that will to keep living, that will to live in a way that feels satisfying. I mean, that's at the heart of what I do and why I'm here. And I've been asking myself so much lately why it's not okay to just exist. You know, like a tree just gets to exist, like just to live, you know, just to create the way it creates, you know, with every season. You know, making leaves, helping us breathe with oxygen, for the betterment of everything that's around it, you know. And for me, there's a bit of God in that, you know. There is God in that. There's life in that, and life and God may, for me, be synonymous.
But I think that brings another point that's like, even a tree is endlessly creative, because it's chasing after sunlight, because it's warring with other trees around it, trying to get the most sunlight, because it's rooting around for water in the best place it can find. There's, and I think a lot like snowflakes, you're never going to find the same two trees.
Yeah.
And I think if you get down to it, that's everything in existence. Is endlessly creative.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that's what I think is so cool. And like I said, yeah, I don't know necessarily how I interact. I think that I try to make sense of it so that I feel safer.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's a lot of what you know, faith always comes down to, that you have no idea and you're just sort of going with it anyway.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel like, you know, dropping into a flow state is like it's just a leap of faith every time.
Yeah.
Because you have no idea where it's going, how it's going to end up. You have no idea if your intellectual brain is going to be okay with what you end up with. You know, you're just going to hate yourself as soon as you hear it, you know.
Yeah.
You just have no idea how it's going to go. So you have to take that leap of faith and hope that it's going to be somewhat similar to the last time, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Yeah. And music is my deepest connection to that. It's my deepest connection to jumping into that flow state and, getting comfortable with the unknown along with this force that is driving us all, along with this, safe force that I really do believe takes care of you if you put your energy into whatever it is that connects you to that flow state. And yeah, man. Yeah. Rock on.
Yeah. No, it's deep. Like I said, I don't know where the conversation's going to end up necessarily, but I know it's important to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's like, it's one of those things that people they get uncomfortable about, because people who are judgmental, for lack of a better word, that comes with so much of its own sort of whatever you feel about that word, but people who like to think to make themselves feel safe that they know all the answers or they can find them, hate having any conversation about the parts of life that we don't know.
Yeah. It's scary.
Yeah.
It's scary. Sometimes it feels unsafe, but I think it's so important, just like walking into those rooms of the house that you don't feel comfortable in, we got to do it. We got to do it. It helps us understand like the deeper thing that is, how do you feel about it? What is your connection to God in your creative process?
I don't know. It's kind of silly. I feel self-conscious about it already. I guess I should say. I already said it was silly, so I'll roll that back. I feel self-conscious about it because even though I believe it and this is how I feel about it, I don't know that that's necessarily right. And so, it was rough growing up. My parents were fighting a lot. I finally found guitar. I was about 15, 16, written a couple of songs, and I was just like playing in the back of the house, trying to drown them out, or even in the front of the house. And rainy day, felt like super scared, super like just I want to be anywhere else. And started playing the song, singing, and just sort of like prayerfully almost like hey, if anything's out there listening,
Yeah.
this one's for you, right? Because I'm alone in the back room, and who else is it for, and clouds parted ways, saw some sunshine, and that was like the first time I remember feeling legitimately safe. Was in that moment. And so I started playing more, and it's Texas, so there's plenty of sunny days. So, I'm already discounting it, but it's like, happened a few more times where I just felt really safe, and it was like good and sunny, even though it was cloudy out,
Yeah.
And just sort of this beautiful safety that I was able to find. And that was sort of like, well, and I was suicidal at the time too. So it was like, if I'm going to keep going, then this is what I'm going to keep going for.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm going to keep going to share, or share in. And so that's my relationship with it, is like, and that's how I've gotten to meet, like, just talking about rooms you don't go in. Like, there's these kids I got to meet up in Alaska that are just the coolest. We had them over for game nights and stuff.
Oh yeah, I love this story, man. I love it.
Yeah, and I don't want to give too many personal details because they're kids, but yeah, they would come over and we'd play board games, and it was like, not that they didn't have parental figures or that they saw me as a parental figure. It was just like, we're going to give you a safe, quiet home away from everything that you're used to, just so that you can have a break from it and get some perspective, because that wasn't what I had as a kid.
Yeah.
And so it's like, that's one of the rooms I just don't go in anymore because, or at least very often, because it kills me that we're not up there to be with them. And it feels like maybe they're not safe because of that. But I know that that's not true. That's just one of the anxieties I have. But the reason I bring that up is because creativity and it allowing myself to fall into a state of unsafe was what allowed me to be there for them. Because they sort of, children do, they test out the adults around them. They'll tell them, here's one line, and if you can handle that, then maybe I'll tell you the rest of the story. And if you don't freak out and you just sit there and listen and nod, they'll tell you the rest. And so, yeah, I mean, some of the things they told me, it's just terrifying. It's like, I don't even know if I can intake the information that follows that statement, but being familiar with the flow state, being familiar with that vulnerability, I was like, okay, just let go and let go, let God. It's that phrase that always pops into my head.
It's a great phrase, man. Great phrase.
And that's what allowed me to just be present for them. And that's what sort of slowly turned into these game nights or whatever. And so, yeah, I mean, that's how I feel about creativity. And that's why I feel like it relates to literally everything, because if you're participating in creativity 110%, you're just participating in life 110%, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's how I feel about it. And that's why I do the podcast, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think it's everything. That's all of life. That's the common denominator that everybody's looking for. That's like, those coexist stickers I see all over the place. It's like, you're kind of missing the point. Those are all like mutually exclusive religions. It's not a tie together kind of thing. Like, all religions say that they're the end all be all and there is nothing else. And it's like, but there are things that tie us together that are maybe not bigger than religion. I think that's probably wrong to say, but definitely that are more common and that we can feel are real.
Yeah, creativity for me is one of those. Like I said, I think it feels central to the experience of all of us, central to the experience of life is like being creative. Also, man, like that was beautiful. All of that. Feeling safe, having a moment where like the clouds parted for you. I mean, that's unbelievable. It's those moments that keep music with you for the rest of your life. You can't let them go. And especially being at such a tumultuous time in your life. I mean, I'm really feeling for you, man. That is intense. It must have been really hard. And I'm so glad that music was the thing that got you there. I mean, that's for me some proof in the pudding that music works, that music is therapy, not just me because I do this because it makes me feel good, but also because it really helps you deal with the hardest parts of life. Man, that was proof, and that was beautiful. And that reaffirms why I make music. So thanks for sharing that.
Well, you teach too, don't you?
I do, yeah, man. I piece it together however I can. And teaching, this is a part of it, you know what I mean? It's just, listening. Oftentimes music isn't about making music, sometimes it's just about like giving a student the chance to express whatever that looks like, the chance to get to know themselves, learn themselves. I really feel like art is like the science of the self, it helps you deal with the hard stuff and also helps you look at the hard stuff. It helps you figure out who you are and how you deal with that stuff.
Yeah, I feel like a cool moment for me learning guitar was I started on bass. I don't know if I told you that. Mm-hmm. That's why I have all these on the back wall here. But I started on bass, and I didn't know anything, so I was just playing the D string just over and over, and it was like I just had a moment where I was like, this is probably really annoying for everybody else in the house.
The story of my life.
And I was like for whatever reason, not even changing the note, it just feels really good.
Yeah.
Like this note I'm really enjoying right now.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever seen those dust art where they've got a speaker and they've got sand on top, and it's like you play a frequency and it plays a pattern.
I love
I was just really digging that pattern that day.
Yeah.
And I just had this really I guess liberating moment of just because this feels good right now is a good enough reason to do it, even though it annoys other people. It's okay to take up space.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was another great moment with music. It's just,
yeah, I also think vibration is central to existence. It is at the heart of everything. Vibrating strings, or particles colliding. There's always movement and vibration, and like, yeah, just living in that on that one D note. Yeah. There is something special about that, about the trance, about living in it for a minute. I love that. I love it.
That's all bassists do anyway, right?
No, yeah, man, it's all feel, baby. Yeah.
One note over and over. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I think that's why it feels different going city to city too. Like if you get off the plane in New York, it's like it hits you as soon as you walk off the plane. It's like, oh, I'm in New York. Like,
different
this
vibration.
Totally different. Yeah. Yeah, I figure that's got to be it. I'm not a scientist. I have no idea. But,
yes.
But I figure that's got to be it. It's like it just hits you as soon as you arrive. I mean, that and the weather, but I mean, still.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially coming from Texas, you get off the plane here, it's like that hits you like a brick wall.
No kidding. Especially after having like been in Alaska for so long, that must have been crazy for you.
Dude, I'm still burning up. I was at work the other day. I had to walk outside, and it's like it's still hot out here.
It's crazy.
Like 60 degrees. Like, dang.
Yeah, dude, the heat's killing me. One day I'm gonna leave Texas just for that reason. Yeah. That's my biggest complaint. Is it's so hot and for so long.
I want to find a place where I don't get just terrible allergies.
Oh, same. The pollen is killing me.
I got bad allergies in Alaska. I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, dude.
Oh man.
Yeah, dust is a big one for me too. I had a bird growing up, so
you
I think that's why. Yeah.
What was your bird's name?
I had 3 of them. So I had Spotty was my first one because it was real creative, and then I can't even remember the other 2's names.
Creativity, central to existence.
Anyway, yeah, I can't even remember the other 2's names.
That's pretty cool, though.
So long, but I had them for like 9 years.
Wow.
Yeah, they were great little pets, but I think dust allergy is what I got out of them, and some good memories.
There you go.
But I had like one other question. I kind of want to. Feel like it'd be a nice conclusion. It's like. Like, what's the happiest part of art for you?
Oh, man.
I know you kind of touched on it earlier, saying that you get to do that with other people was sort of like the first happy moment, you know?
Yeah, man. I know what it is. It took me a minute to kind of like nail it down because music has been such a big part of my life in so many different ways in so many different areas, whether it's teaching or like writing music or whatever. But honestly, I feel the best making music when I'm in a band, we're all playing together and everybody's gelling. There's nothing like just everybody feeling it. And when everyone's grooving, dude, I mean, it's palpable. It's like a drug, you know, you can't help but dance, you know, it's powerful. It really is. It's a wild thing, man. When everyone is on, when everybody is present, and sometimes it's the hardest part of the job is learning to be present for a while, you know, like with the music. And when everybody is, man, you can feel it, dude. It's you can almost touch it. You can almost touch it.
It's hard not to get excited just talking about it.
Yeah, man. It feels so nice. Good. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's the same thing with photography. It's the same thing with drawing. Same thing with you know, because when I've been on shoots with people where like I'm about to ask them to try a different position. I'm saying like I don't really like how your foot looks in this picture, you know, like whatever it is, and they move right before I ask, you know. It's like I don't even have to. Neither of us has to stop. Neither of us has to slow down. It's like we can just feel exactly what needs to happen. And it's like when I first started photography, I was like I didn't have anything to equate it to, so I'd just be like, yeah, it's kind of like getting a crush on somebody. Like it's almost it's that level of elation, but it's not really that level of romance. It's just like it's an intimacy with somebody. It's like it's a shared nonverbal understanding. And that is it's like the ultimate being understood and accepted. Yeah. Without having to say anything. You know, it's like you're getting to share the love of.
Yeah, man. You know? I love that. It's cool that you had that in photography. I had no idea that was the thing. It's cool that you've had moments where someone just adjusts the way the way you feel like this photograph needs. That's pretty cool. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I've got one on my website where he's like, we were in a riverbed. He's squatting down and he's reaching towards the camera and he's got this suit on, and so it's like business suit, business attire. And so he shouldn't be in a riverbed to begin with, and he shouldn't be squatting down. And then it was like, I was kind of hanging off a ledge sideways and like holding the camera, and then like he just got the feeling of like I was gonna drop my camera, sort of. It was just like that was the thought. We talked about it after, and so he like sort of reached out and then just held himself there, not to grab the camera, but just like to act out the motion of the moment.
Yeah.
And it's such a cool picture. That's still one of my favorites.
I love that, man. That's so cool. And I feel like that is the thing that is proof of like the God in it. The fact that that you two were connected in that moment in that same way, in a way that made this really beautiful thing happen.
See, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. Because
nailed it. Got there.
Yeah. High five. Is that you're connected impossibly to something.
Yeah.
Because we're all captive in our physical world. And we know exactly what the boundaries are. There's some quote I heard somewhere where it's like, it's not like I'm getting out of bed in the morning hoping that I don't end up on the ceiling. You know?
Yeah.
I know gravity exists. I know it's going to work, right?
For sure.
And that's our physical world. But there's times when you just end up, you know, in the not physical world. Like I was a dog trainer for like 6 months or something.
I didn't know that. That's pretty cool.
One of the weird jobs.
I
done
love dogs,
so many.
yeah.
But the cool thing about it, I love dogs too. I would never own one. After dog training, I would never own one. But there's so much work.
Yes.
It's like
people of the world, people of the internet. If you love dogs, but your lifestyle doesn't work with a dog, please don't get a dog. You know, think about that living thing. Make sure that they have a place to be that suits their life, and it is a life. So sorry for that tangent, but
no,
I think animals and animal rights are super important. So think about that. Yeah,
I agree with that 100%.
Anyway, I'm sorry.
No, it's good. I think I also got to have that moment with dogs in dog training, because it was like they break it down in the training that you have to go through for dog training. They break it down
the dog trainer
training. So they break it down into like, well, dogs are either like play motivated, work motivated, or food motivated, and that's the 3 areas of dogs. But there is a deeper one there that they don't really cover. It's like dogs like being understood, and they like understanding you.
Yes.
They like being able to communicate freely with you.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And that's like, I had a couple of moments where it was like, you know, you're sort of gesturing at a dog, and it's sort of like, oh my gosh, this is another human being that's like interacting with me, and I'm just gonna kind of bark because they seem to like that, and they'll pet me, and they'll just sort of leave me alone at that point, you know. And so I'm gesturing at this dog, trying to get it to sit, and then give it a treat every time it does, right? Like just normal dog trainer stuff. And it finally it clicked. Like the dog was looking everywhere else, just distracted, not having a good time. And then it was like, I gave him a treat, and then it's just like the understanding clicked on.
Yeah.
And you could just see it in the dog's eyes, and it just got this great big smile on its face.
I love that.
And so then it did exactly what I wanted it to do. And I only had to show it once for each, you know, consecutive behavior I wanted it to teach it that day.
Yeah.
And it was just so excited. And then it was like, have you ever seen those videos where they give them like talk buttons?
Yes.
And they'll actually pick the ones that they, you know, like, I need to go outside.
Yeah.
You know, don't push that button. This is the coolest thing, because they like being understood, and we like understanding them, right?
Heck yeah. I really feel that to my core, man. I have that with my dog, you know?
Yeah.
That's special for me.
And that's another way that we relate to things outside of our physical forms, right?
Yeah. Impossibly connected to something.
Impossibly connected. Yeah. I think that is also, and this is just me trying to sum up and share the idea of like, I find creativity universal. It's like, just like in music, just like in photography, just like in dog training, it's like we're impossibly connected. And that's why, pardon me, our music is relatable to others as well, because it's things that they went through, but they also feel it so deeply. And it's not as though songs are novels. You know, we're not describing the full extent of what happened to us to create that song. But enough of our spirit, if you want to use that word, is encapsulated in those words that when it arrives at another person, they're deeply affected. It's like that. It's sort of like how we relate to famous people, right? Like we're impossibly connected to them because we've seen them do something.
Yeah.
But it's like our spirits touched.
Right.
Though it wasn't in person and they wouldn't recognize us and we would recognize them, right? We're impossibly connected.
Yeah, heck yeah.
And I think that is that's a beautiful definition I'm going to hang on to for creativity.
Yeah, rock on. Me too, man. I love that. I love that. Yeah, it's a feeling tone. It's like this thing, and you know, like everybody, infinitely nuanced and infinitely complex, but we can share this sense of feeling, you know. And I think that like not so physical connection, this impossible thing, this impossible feeling that connects to people or a group of people. I mean, or a group of species, you know, if it's with your dog, you know, and you, or, yeah, man, it's powerful. It's powerful. I think it's partly why I still do this, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I have one funny story before we
Yeah.
go. We'll wrap out after this. So thanks for listening to the show. Check out Anthony Basini at Anthony Basini on Instagram. Check him out on Spotify. New CD dropping when? Do you got a date on that yet, or
Man,
just new single coming out?
I have another single coming out soon-ish, called "Surrender to the Waves," which is a bit about surrendering to life and creativity and God, and also
Can't wait, man.
yeah. And also because one song is context of my life. It also has to do with my relationship that I was in at the time. So there is also that. But yeah. Thanks for plugging me.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And thanks for sticking with us, everybody. Thanks.
Yeah. Like I said, that conversation, we didn't know where it would go, so I appreciate you hanging out for it and listening. But my final goofy story of interacting with another species, since you brought it up, I was on this product shoot for like an insurance company, so it was like not gonna be super entertaining. But they had these two cats that
Also love cats.
that they said they hate each other. So if they're around each other, give them space because they're gonna fight and they don't care who's around, right?
Yeah.
And so we were all taking a break, and I saw the cats together on their perch, and I was like, I'll give them room. But I was like, just walked up to them and was like, hey, I'm going to take a picture of you guys. Is that okay? Just making a joke for everybody who's in the kitchen, like having their snacks and stuff. And they both sat up, like went to the top shelf, sat and looked at me.
I love that.
And I was like,
yeah.
dude, terrifying, but okay.
Yeah.
Everybody in the kitchen laughs. I got the picture. And they're like, I can't wait to get that picture. I've never seen them nice together.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, just for one more laugh, how about you roll over on your back and put a paw up on you know, the other cat. I forget the cat's name. And he fucking did it,
Yes! I love it. I love it. That must have been so funny for everybody.
Dude, it was terrifying. It got so quiet.
Really? Wow.
And then everybody busts out laughing, like, but it was like a beat of just like, wait, what?
Yeah, I love it, man. It's so cool that photography has connected you to other things that way. That's awesome, man. I love it. Yeah, so cool.
So just crazy things that you get into making art, man.
Yeah, man. Animals, they're intelligent. Different type of intelligence, not a human type of intelligence, but you know they are. You know, they're smart, man. Talk to them. Get to know them. You know, let them know what's up. They'll let you know what's up. Let them be them. You know, it's a cool thing. Yeah.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Rock on, man.
Well, thank you.
Anthony, I had a blast.
So much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's so cool getting to talk to you anytime we get to talk. So
yeah,
thanks
same.
so much. And definitely anybody check out his music. And when the new Molly Moon CD drops, check out that too, because it's also Anthony.
And it's awesome. It's great. Really, honestly, like heartfelt songs. And that for me, like that kind of honesty, like that's what makes music special. So yeah, thanks for making music.
Yeah, man. Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks so much. And creative thinkers all over the globe. In Cameroon, because another region that we're highly listened. That's,
nice.
West Africa.
Rock on, dude.
Yeah. Shout out to everybody. Have a great day. Keep creating. Find the flow. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Take care. Bye-bye.